Greetings and salutations, everyone. This is, oh man, I said greetings and salutations. I told myself I wasn't going to do that anymore. Guys, you were supposed to stop me. What's up, art people? We are here for the Gala Games Blue Realm stream, where we're going to be talking to some of the absolute graphical heroes behind the characters in Last Expedition. So, you guys want to introduce yourselves really quick?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Ryan Mansfield. I'm the art director on Last Expedition.
I'm Dan Sutton. I'm the production director on Last Expedition.
And I'm Juan Mesa, the lead character artist for Last Expedition.
And I'm Christian Gallego, and I'm a senior character artist on the Last Expedition project.
It is absolutely fantastic to have you guys on here today.
Thank you.
Last Expedition, and I know that you guys have probably seen this, is one of my favorite games that we have in the entire portfolio. I'm super stoked about it. I love playing it. I'm terrible at it. I die all the time, but I enjoy the hell out of it. And I know a lot of, really, I've never seen anyone play it who hasn't had fun. So I'm very, very happy to be here chatting with you guys about this, because one of the things that I love most about it is the characters. They're so rich, so complex, really, really cool, and they just look amazing. And that's 100% you guys that create this. So as I understand it, you have a bit of a slide deck that you guys would like to run through.
Yeah, correct. So we wanted to show everybody is we've got we've broken up into 3 different parts here. We want to talk about the characters, which are actually a huge part of the game. We want to talk about the design of the characters and where they came from. Then we actually wanted to jump into Juan was going to talk about the actual characters themselves, how we're making them, and and the process about it. And then Christian was going to talk about actually the creatures in the world. So let's get started. So our character,
guys.
Yeah. So our character vision. Basically, for all you don't know, if you're playing Last Expedition right now, there actually is a story and a lore to all of the characters that we are creating. Currently, right now, like we said, we're pre-alpha, so it's very early, but all this stuff is hopefully going to come through pretty soon. The setting for Last Expedition takes place at the edge of the galaxy. You know, it's in the middle of nowhere, and the conditions of survival are extremely hard. So we want to make sure that our characters represent that type of environment. So when we were designing the look of our characters, we wanted not only to look like they belong, in the world artistically, but we wanted the player to feel if these characters could easily survive the harsh environments and everything that is thrown at them and the job that's in front of them. So for that, they need to look tough, competent, skilled, and actually they need to have an edge. So these are our 4 main characters. We have more characters that are coming down, but currently right now in the game, these are the 4 main characters that you can play. When we're actually designing the look of the characters and the technology and weapons, we're actually referencing a lot of the late 70s and 80s action movies, especially the science fiction genre. But here's what's kind of interesting. We're not an actual 70s or 80s themed game, right? We're not the Olivia Newton-John, which, she actually died a year ago today, so God bless her. Shout out to her. We're not that. We're not the Rick Ashleys. We're not the 80s, the kind of the over-the-top goofy stuff you remember. We're more of the 80s sci-fi. We're using 80s and 70s and 80s sci-fi as a jumping off point for the visuals. So for that, it's retrofuturism. That means themes of space, robots, and minimalism is actually a common theme of those aesthetics. Basically, think of it as when people used to do a lot of the sci-fi in the 70s and 80s, it was a lot of the future is seen from the past, but the past is seen from the future. So basically what they were doing is artists were attempting to visualize the future, but they didn't really have it. They had a viewpoint of a non-futuristic kind of century. So the technology in our game is not refined. The ships and all of the technology and weapons they have a strong sense of history. That means that ages, it needs to be repaired a lot. It's modified. It's not clean. It's all gritty. And there's a lot of kit bashing going on. So if you a lot of the movies we're kind of referencing is perfect examples, Blade Runner, Terminator, and also Total Recall. So on top of the 70s and 80s kind of science fiction look, we're also adding on top of all of that is kind of an added punk layer. And actually heavy metal comics was a huge inspiration. There's like a Mad Max vibe to kind of the Simon Beasley, who used to do a lot of the characters and drawings for the heavy metal comics. And what we liked, it was kind of, it had a really gritty, it was very gritty and edgy. But at the same time, it was badass, but it had a really cool sense of fun. So I love all of his stuff. So adding that onto the 70s and 80s kind of vibe, we came up with a really cool look, we think. So, we're adding a lot of straps, spikes, interesting patterns and textures. And what's weird is everything that the people are wearing should feel like hot and grimy. The success of what Simon Beasley and heavy metal and all the 80s sci-fi stuff is the silhouette and the textures. They were very chaotic, but they used to stack things on top of each other, and it looked functional. It was weird, right? Like you would have a robot and you would have 9 different things stacked on top of them that didn't make sense. For some reason, it actually looked functional and it was believable. So we're going to talk about one of our main characters right now, Alice McKay. A lot of you have seen her. She's probably been our forefront of all the characters that we put out on Discord and out there. But she's the easiest one to talk about when actually creating the process of modeling and the thought process from start to finish. So Alice McKay, I'm not going to read all through this, but the reason I put this up here was actually because I wanted you guys to understand that each one of our characters is going to have a background. We actually think about the backgrounds. We think about their history, where they came from. Perfect example is, she's a prize fighter. She's Scott Irish. She has an accent, a pronounced accent. She's tough. She's edgy. She's aggressive, but not reckless. And the two things also you should know about Alice too is each one of our characters has a special ability. So her ability is a rocket salvo. So you can see that over her shoulder. But one of the cool things we think about when designing our characters, it's a little weird, but what kind of music would they listen to? I know it's kind of odd, but it was an interesting idea and a different take on when creating our characters. It's like, I know a lot of people, they take on their persona of their music. So a lot of people, if you like heavy metal, they dress with, a lot of tattoos and heavy metal, and it's their way of life. So we started thinking about what type of music would our characters listen to. So, Alice, she draws a lot of inspiration from The Clash with some influence from the Sex Pistols, which is awesome. She's not an anarchist, but, she doesn't go to the social norms. She loves she loves the hard driving bands. So, and what we would do once we figured out all of these backgrounds for Alice, who she is, and we'd concept her, then we'd break her down. We'd break it down. And I'm not going to go over all of this, but you can tell every little thing that we would break down to our characters. Everything from the straps are made of, why she's wearing this, this type of vest, why her haircut is like this, basically down to the last detail. And then, thank God we have a great artist like Juan and Christian. Juan and Christian. What we would do is we take it, send it over to him, and then this is what they would create. And they would create some amazing stuff. So it's a 1-for-1.
Yeah, we actually get a lot of the creative freedom. I'm glad I'm working with Mansell because he let us do our thing. He'll give us like the basis, the good foundations of what he's looking for and ambitioning for the game. And then we take it to, the creative level and making them all in 3D, which for Alice, we did a lot of the work was between all of us in the team. And like Mansell was saying, we push a lot of the punk elements on her. You can see the shoulder stuff that we work on. The amount of detail that we put on this character was pretty much amazing, and it was a lot of the foundations for the upcoming characters. So we work all our shared systems, all our hair pipelines, skin materials, along with Christian. He is really good doing that. So I basically will start with the base, and then he will take it to another level. You can see like the scars, the tattoos.
I'll go back.
Yeah, you can see like all the details. Like we're telling a story about her, where she's been, what she's about to. Like Mansfield was saying, the kind of music she listens to, the vibe she reflects. Yeah. So basically, our job is just to take or reflect what he's ambitioning for the character, and then just take it into 3D.
And then Juan, here's the hair. Do you want to talk about like how?
Yeah. So for the hair, this is a new system. We're using a Real 5.2. So if some of you played the old demo, that wasn't Real 4. So we actually taking this character to a new generation of games like next gen. So we have the Albemic system here, which we transfer it into a low poly version, and you can see, as you can see here, the hair looks pretty realistic. Also for the face, we went and created a bunch of blend shapes and stuff like that to make her look more realistic. And right here we can see a test that our animation director Dan Rule created, and then how Alice is coming alive. She has expressions, she can talk. We're still developing her a little bit more, and then when the game comes out, she's gonna look amazing. I hope you guys start basically following us, so you can see the evolution of this character when you start playing the game.
Yeah, like you said, we're super early right now into the facial rigging stuff, Juan. But like we are, Steve Kelly as well is helping us rig up our characters. Sadly, Roger Perez couldn't be here, our other character artist today. He's cruising out in the Mediterranean or Caribbean someplace. But it is like
my heart
you said,
bleeds for him. I gotta say,
it's so bad.
It's terrible.
So bad,
it's so
Jason.
sad. So sad.
But I mean, the coolest thing is, like you said, Juan, is that you guys like to pass things off. Like when you see one character, it's not just one artist. It is all three of them combining on certain efforts. One may work on one part, one works on the other, one works on the facial, the skin, the materials. It's super cool to see how fluid and dynamic this is. And then what you're seeing right here is kind of the result of, we have our mission ready Alice. That's the legendary character that you see here on the left. And then what we've done is we started creating variations of that. So you're going to start seeing that we're going to be able to have some personalization here, some stuff you can buy, some stuff you can earn as we have our character and our progression pipelines come on board. You also see on the very far right here, this is our Iron Brawl, our Boxer Alice as well. So we actually did a different variant of Alice here. And this will be one of our other epic characters that we have in the game as well too. But really one of the biggest things that we're doing right now is after we create a character is we start putting them in the pipeline of how can we actually add some customization, some elements, things that you can, like I say, buy and earn in the game as you progress throughout your progression. And as well too, if you want to personalize yours and purchase different characters, you can as well too. So we're going to give a lot of options of how you can actually upgrade your character across the game.
Yeah, like right here, we're developing a new setup for her that is probably going to be in the future. This is early stages, but yeah, if you guys follow us, like I say from the beginning, you can see how Alice is going to evolve into a cooler thing with time.
I love the little Vox there hanging off the end of the gun barrel. That's pretty badass.
The Bucks Vox?
Yeah,
little Bucks Vox.
Yeah, and then for her, like a workout with Mansfield, different setups for her, like the materials that we're gonna be using, the leather, the different patterns, the studs, all the things that we can make Alice more interesting and iconic. So yeah, that's how she's coming along right now.
I'm recently certain I had a crush on the one in the middle when I was in middle school. Pretty sure.
And our quality bar is high. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we all came from the AAA game space. So between Juan, Christian, Ryan, myself, and all of our team, like a lot of us worked on Halo. We worked on, I think, a lot of the Harry Potter game, Hogwarts Legacy characters were done by a lot of our team. It's pretty funny. Like I said, Halo, Christian, myself, we worked on those. Christian did a lot of the armor and gear for Halo Infinite. It goes way, way back that way too. So I mean, that's our bar, and that's what we want to hit when it comes to our visual character quality across the board. We want these things to hold up against the best games that are out there right now.
Yeah, like I come from the Call of Duty industry, so a lot of that is coming into play since we work on all those games before. So yeah, if you see Black Ops, you can tell like there's a resemblance there for the amount of gear she's wearing. So that's one of the things we want to like take in action. so she looks more realistic. More like the description that Mansfield just talk about 5 minutes ago.
This is one of my favorite alterations that I guess variants of her, I would say, because Juan was it was one of her earliest ones. It's one of my favorites, but it goes back to hey, this is who she is. So let's do variants based on her personality. We're not just picking random stuff. So it's hey, she loves British punk. So this is a British punk version of it. We try to keep it. Just I'll let you know. Yes, there's going to be variants of Alice, but for a while we're taking it very serious. We want to make sure it fits into her theme, her backstory, and eventually we'll down the road, a couple years down the road, we'll branch off and go a little bit nuttier. But we want to take these characters serious at the beginning, and then and all the variants should fit their backstory and who they are. So
yeah, each element we have a thought about how's it going to be reflected on her. So
yep,
yeah, a lot of the efforts come from all of us.
I love it. So our second character we're going to roll into is Sebastian. So Sebastian is, for all you don't know, there's actually different classes in our game. There's an offense, defense, and support. Sebastian is the support. So the way that Sebastian is, he's basically the medic of the group. And what's cool is, he's the one. He does have all the same weapons and everything like that, but he's got his abilities, a healing cloud. So when he can actually spray this AOE of a healing cloud, and it'll affect anybody within a certain radius around for his teammates. What's kind of cool is, again, I don't want to go over all of this, but we'll actually post some of these things on Discord so you can start understanding who the back characters are, who they are. Dr. Sinclair, sometimes what he's called. He used to be in the military. He's actually, you can tell, seen some tough times. he's actually made his own cybernetics. So what's cool is, and then the music we were for him, he was a hard one. Out of all the other 4 characters, he was the hardest one to come up with. He's very deep, and he's torn between being, obviously, you've seen it in movies before. He's torn between being a medic and also somebody who has to survive and do awful things to survive. So he has a wide range of music from classical to to punk. So he's an awesome. He's one of my favorite characters that Juan has actually been working on.
Right.
He's cybernetics and everything. So
we had to research a lot of the prosthetic works, because in the game you gotta implement the rigs and all that stuff, how things are gonna move. So yeah, Mansell and the team, Pedro, and all of us started working on Sebastian. Christian started doing the first block up for him, and then it started to evolve into a thing, since we had to make sure everything in the game was moving right, all the pieces that he has in the arm, the legs. It was a whole creative process for him. And we also wanted to reflect the materials, the storytelling about him. So since he's a healer, what kind of setup and gear he has. And then we're also pushing the bar on this one. So everything is more realistic, with the hair. You can see right there a close-up of the skin. Christian and I have been working on the skin, how you can do damage on the skin, the pores, the materials. We've done an amazing job and how creating this character, actually. And this is one of the earliest versions. Right now, we're trying to evolve this character a little bit more. So we put in a little more work just to create a system that, is going to make him feel more real and more grounded. So yeah, this is just the beginning for you guys.
As I age, I want his hair, Juan. I want my hair to look like his hair.
Yeah, like the hair, we used XGen from Maya, and then we created the Albemic pipeline for him as well, like you guys saw for Alice. And then we're working around the materials, all the metal stuff, all the straps and stuff like that, how everything is working together and coming along. And then he also has a punk flare, which you can see in his jacket and his lab coat. He's looking pretty cool, actually. I love this character.
Yeah.
And we have put a month like a lot of hours into him. So yeah, it's coming along pretty well.
Yeah. I agree. It's one of my favorite. There's subtleties that Juan, and I'll go back a little bit. There's subtleties that Juan and all of them did, which is just like, just obviously the scars. And instead of just putting on goggles, there's awesome stuff. Like we said, there's more to come. There are the other two characters that we will probably do another AMA, the next couple months to show them off. But we're also going to start moving on. It's time to move on to the creatures, which are a huge part of our game, obviously, when you go down the planet. So the creatures are an interesting thing. So the creature designs were based on the idea that originally they were insects or, smaller life forms that originate on the planet. But for the last 50 years, an alien technology has been bombarding and terraforming the planet. Basically, for all of you who played, like I said, we're still early, but there is, we're going to be showing, and this is a whole nother AMA later on for the IP and everything. There in the story, there is a alien life form that is terraforming the world. So the world will be terraforming, the indigenous life form will be terraforming. That's why if you've played it, you're like, why is there meteors falling from the sky? There's a whole story behind that. We're not going to go into that now. That's a whole long, that's another hour worth. But what's happening is high level is this alien technology is basically bombarding the world and it's terraforming, and these creatures, the indigenous life forms, have evolved and turned into something more. So they've morphed into creatures that have wiped out pretty much all the human life that were on this planet. So the whole sole purpose of these creatures are to stop you from harvesting the technology that is actually coming down to terraform the world. So real quick, you can see it start out maybe a simple bug that was living there. It's grown into this porcupine, which is our actual, our long distance enemy. And then it even terraforms into more to something that's more almost like kind of cybernetic, half organic, half cybernetic. And we've talked about terraforming it. There is no limit to how far it can terraform. So Christian, who did a lot of these creatures, can talk about, if you want to talk about some of these creatures in the game now.
Sure. It would be my pleasure. So something unique about this, our current creatures that are going to be shown is that we inherited almost a base version of these creatures. And then it was kind of left to us to go through and say, okay, here are our limitations, both visually, both story, and both technical, that we have already established, and we have to work within these bounds. And sometimes what this means is that we have an ideal version of what something is and what we hope for it to become, but time, technical mishaps will kind of help guide us into where that final product ends up. And I think the Snapper is a really good example of that. If you go to the next slide, you're going to see to the left is an earlier version of it. To the right is more like a revamped version. And I think something that we strive with these characters or with the creatures is that it works in stepping stones. So we, as Juan mentioned, blockouts. We get blockouts early on in the game. We establish movements. We establish reads. And then we go through polished passes. And every polished pass is done as quickly as possible, as well as possible. And then what we try to do is we try to then reevaluate and say, hey, can we get away with more? Do we need to get away from more? And we do this by getting them in the game and starting to see how they interact, as far as gameplay goes.
And Christian, I think it's kind of like a dance. It's we mentioned Steve Kelly and Dan Rubo earlier, our rigging lead and our animation lead, but it's a getting game. We want these things to look as cool, be as fluid as possible, and then they tell us what their joints can do and what they cannot do, and where things overclip and where things, can actually work that way too. So it's a nice little balance where getting a blockout in early helps us test out the gameplay, figure out what our rigs need to be, and then we can go back and actually refine things and sometimes make the creatures even cooler because we know what we can do and we can't do without our restraints.
Yeah, and we also have in mind always pushing the silhouette. So we always the blockout helps us evaluate everything about the silhouette of the character. How is it going to read in game from far away? So that's the thing that we always do. We're always playing with the silhouettes and forms just to see how the character is going to evolve into, a better looking thing in the game.
Yeah, in the past, the standard pipeline was we're going to spend weeks developing this beautiful concept, and then we're going to spend weeks building it out. And then we're going to get into the game and realize it's got a weird look to it when it runs at you. So rather than do that and dedicate all this time and then have to revamp it back again, if we do it in stages, we can catch things early on and modify things as we go, as opposed to committing to something up front and then having to go back and restart it all over again. So if you move to the next one, this is one of the other creatures you're going to find. It's called the porcupine. He what you see kind of is once again, it's a starting point, and then we move on to, okay, based on the story and where we are now, how is this thing going to function? This right here is the initial blockout of it. We try to time cap these. So we try to make sure like, hey, we don't spend more than X amount of time on this, because all we're trying to get is a read. Is this working well with the game? Is it striking what we want to strike? Is it fearful, in that sense? As you can see, it's not really an attractive model. But what we see right here is the finished version of that. So after several iterations and the concept artist drawing over it, we're able to then actually get into the nitty gritty and get into like my favorite part of it, which is sculpting in all the pores and all the wrinkles and everything into the creatures, which is a real shame for this one in particular, because he tends to shoot things from his little mouth and these darts come out and they're always from afar. So do me a favor, if you play the game, run up and stab it as close as possible.
Good luck with that too. So
please only stab this character, which is difficult because it's very fast.
Well, it's also Jason, I know 3D modeled, but he modeled this version. He didn't 3D model this one. He didn't 3D print this version. So I by the way, I want to do this again because I'm getting a resin printer that's gonna work better. Doing this in PLA was a bit of a nightmare. He's one of my favorite guys.
This character also has a lot of the material stuff we have set up for the creatures. So I know Ben Close, who is our material artist, the lead material artist, worked on the eye. So if you see it in the game, you can see the eye moving and stuff like that. It looks gooey and nasty in the game. So watch out for that.
Absolutely. And so in utilizing that as the base, and now it turns from the common porcupine now into what we refer to as ancient porcupine. So in this version, they've already been transformed, and our amazing concept artist, Jason Bourne, created this concept utilizing 3D. And I think that is a great help for us, because then what that does is that we don't have to spend a whole lot of time guessing how things are going to look in a three-dimensional space, which is oftentimes more difficult than what it sounds.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Questions. Can we go back a slide?
Yeah.
For starters, that's one of the coolest looking things I think I've ever seen. It's the most H.R. Geiger looking monster I think I've ever seen in a game. And I love it. I'm absolutely in love with it. I need one of those.
Very
I'm
cool.
thinking in front of my house.
This was
this is the first I think a lot of people are seeing of this.
I've never seen this before. This is the coolest thing.
So
my second point is less important, but we actually have a Jason Bourne working for us. I feel like that needs to be. I did not know that. I think that needs to be celebrated here for just a second. Jason Bourne, thank you for existing. We appreciate you. Thank you for making this beautiful work.
On top of that, he's a solid artist and a great guy too.
Yeah, what's
great
funny about
action star too.
Yeah, what's funny about Jason, you can tell him when it comes to drawing, he is the real Jason Bourne. When it comes to like everything else, you're like, wait, what? Jason's like, he's so funny. He's like the nicest, awesome guy in the world. But when you hear Jason Bourne, you expect like, oh man, this guy's gonna kill me. And you're like, he's like the sweetest, nicest, coolest guy in the world. You're
Absolutely.
like, oh, so,
yeah.
But yeah, real quick, this is Atari stuff. Sorry, Juan. Yeah, this was.
Oh, go ahead.
We haven't shown this off to a lot of people, and I said we'll have a whole Atari AMA, but this is kind of the you get kind of a glimpse of where the terraforming is going. Going from a little bit more chaotic world to kind of a more structured world. So, anyway, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, like, that's the cool thing about, like, the work we put out. We all know each other. We're kind of like a big family.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff that we put out, we put love into it, and it's just like a thing that belongs, like, becomes a part of us. So that's pretty much every model.
It was cool. Jason did this. Our concept guys, so we worked with them, Jason and Pedro, for almost years now, like 10, 11, 14 years. Something. Jason. What's cool is over the time, they used to be all straight, just drawing, but over time they've adapted and they're amazing. They've actually started concepting in 3D. So this is actually, he's not a modeler. He's not a guy who makes, whatever in-game stuff. But what's great is he does stuff like this and it gives it to us and it cuts out the middleman and it speeds up the timeline. So, kudos to the concept artists who have started learning, and for anybody out there too, man, if you can concept in 3D and drawing, it's a huge, the world is your oyster. So
100%.
Yeah, it makes our lives a heck of a lot easier. So, and then
absolutely.
Then taking that to block out.
Yeah, and so on the left, you're going to see the blockout version. On the right is the polished version. They're very difficult unless you really zoom in there and see. But I think that's the whole point to it. The whole point to it is that the read shouldn't be that difficult. We've already established the large shapes. Everything else from there on out is just polished. So in the next slide, you'll see the finished version of the model in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing's already fully in there. As we mentioned, it's mainly like a mechanical kind of fused creature. So I'm excited what kind of noises are going to come with him. Porcupine has a very unique sound to him. So it's going to be great to see what the audio guys do with this. I think that's one of the funniest things. And it's one of those things that you overlook the most, but when you hear it coming, it's a whole different.
It's a massive pain in the ass. You're just like, oh my God, where is it coming from?
100%.
Do you guys happen to know what was sampled to get that sound? I mean, it's such an interesting, unique, like coughing dog sound. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what they played.
It seems like somebody, it's amazing. The audio of all of this is, well, in fact, the visuals, man, this is the coolest thing. How have I not seen this before? I need to spend more time in Slack.
What's also cool too, you don't see it, is that the material on it, we treat it like, imagine, putting a blowtorch to steel, or even an oil slick that's on, you've kind of got that rainbowy colors. Christian did a great job of getting kind of like steel that's heated up around his back, and it's got that rainbow effect.
Like iridescence. Like, I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was iridescence. So
I knew he did a great with that.
Yeah, he did a great job with it. So
yeah, also the way he built them, the armor, it was pretty crazy. There was a lot of things that we had to like look for, like how he was deforming and all that stuff, how he was moving and then coming alive. So yeah, he did a lot of the work just to explore how everything was moving, all the parts.
And as we move into the next two creatures, really just imagine too, this is like you said, the Natari, the ancient version of where each of the characters are going to evolve to. So we're going to show you the base versions, the common versions of the next two characters. We haven't done this Natari treatment on those two, but just in your imagination, imagine how cool they're going to be when they get to their ultimate evolved form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with that, we can segue to the next one.
Yeah. The next creature, I love this guy. He was, this is the Parasite. It was modeled by Roger Perez. It was also concepted by Jason Bourne. This is one of those things too, where we start off with an idea, and then as we proceed with it, we have to start making decisions based on rigging, based on animation, based on gameplay. And so he actually changed a little bit from beginning to end. And while we still have a base version of him, we're still thinking, and we're still playing with the idea of going back and revisiting his materials and just kind of making him a little bit more goopy. But this is the pipeline that we have chosen, is an iteration pipeline where we get things to a really great point, and then from there on out, everything that we add is just bonus, right? Roger did an excellent job at modeling this guy. He's really, really creepy. He opens his mouth from the center, comes this little pucker, just a little.
And for people who don't know or haven't played the demo yet, oh, there it is right there. This is the one that attaches to your head. It basically comes out of one of our characters' bodies, and it will attach to your head, and is the most annoying creature because it basically takes over your actions for at least 5 to 10 seconds unless somebody can shoot them off of your head. So this is something during our summer demo that we're coming out with soon that you get to play. If you have one of the tokens, it is so much fun to interact with these guys, and also you'll just hear people screaming across the battlefield, parasites out, because it is one of the most intrusive enemies that we have in the game.
These things are the devil. Like they're awful.
And they're disgusting and fleshy. Look at that.
What I love is Jason used. I don't know if you guys saw. What I love is that one of the references Jason used was like a foot that's been in the water for a long time. And if you look at it, it looks like it's got that feeling of just a gross foot that's been like soaking in water. I love it.
It looks like an alien toe.
I love it. So great. So he's awesome. And then
then now we have the Ravager, and I think this is the creme of the crop as far as creatures go. This one's going to be responsible for most of the headaches in the game, and you want to spot this one as early as possible. Luckily, we've attached some emissive to help out with that. But as you can see here on the left, this is the Ravager. The blockout was the initial first pass of the creature, and then to the right we have the final end game, which was created once again by Roger Perez, our other senior character artist. This was, I believe it was concepted by Jason Bourne, if not Pedro, if not both of them.
And this it was a while ago.
It was a while
ago.
I
think it was a mix between the two of them.
I think it was a mix between the two too. And I could be wrong. And if I am, I apologize, guys. But no, this one is pretty much the one that you're the scariest the most. I mean, and we're constantly, this is the first revision of it. Well, it's going to be the last revision of it, but we're trying to do some extra things to it just to make it a little bit more believable. But I think Roger did a great job at kind of up-resing it from its prior version to what it currently is right now. If you can just move on over, it's got this really, really disgusting sack in the back. The sack animates and it blows up. And this is essentially, it pulls you in through its mouth and it swallows you and it takes you away in the middle of gameplay, and then it drops you off and just regurgitates you at another point in the map, which is, it can be demoralizing if you're about to take off, but it's also part of what makes the game so exciting. And then we can see here, this is a high-res image. So just the sculpting of the sculpting that went onto the character, once again, also created by Roger Perez.
Yep.
But these were, as I mentioned, were unique in the sense that they kind of mostly all existed, and we inherited these designs. But moving forward, we're really excited to start really creating, using these as a base for our ideas and creating, bigger, wilder creatures than what we currently have. So that's going to be exciting down the range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Steve Skelly, rig that he put into the character. It looks awesome.
So it's the rig. He's one of our few six-legged characters, and then top of that, you've got to have morph targets for the sack on his back, and he eats, and it's cool. So just want to throw it in. So all these and every character you saw today will be in the next the next drop that we give everybody. So all these things will be in the next drop for Last Expedition.
Yeah, he actually took it to the next level and added physics to the hair. So if you get this guy in the game, you can see all the hairs moving and stuff like that.
We don't have that. Yeah, I wish we would have shown that one. Yeah. Anyways, so that's the end of our presentation slide. That's it.
This is phenomenal, guys. This is like the coolest thing ever. You guys get confetti. Congratulations. That is the coolest thing.
Yay.
And while I'm pushing buttons, I'll just push a few more buttons. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, and follow so that you can make sure that you stay up to date on this really cool stuff. Now, now that the crap that I have to say is out of the way. Let's talk about the really cool stuff. Now, there were some really, really cool questions that some of the community had. Do you mind if we go to a few questions?
No, let's go, please.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So one question, this is from NSOC. NSOC says, how many iterations of character design does a team go through before setting on a final design? How long does it take to go from an initial idea to a final 3D model version of a character? And how many artists are involved in the process? It's like a bunch of questions, but you know.
You see us all smiling because we're all laughing because we're never happy. We're never happy with it, right?
No, we always try to take it to the next level. So it can take 2 months to 3 months to 4 months. And then if we find out a way to make it look even cooler, like, you know, evolving with the shaders, the hair and stuff like that, like Christian was talking about, it's going to, you know, be another process of, you know, making the characters look realistic and all that good jazz.
Yeah. And how many total artists are involved in the process?
Just the 3 of us. Christian.
Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
Artists.
I want to ask a spicy question.
Artists, yeah.
Artists 3, but how about this? It's a bigger thing, right? So
correct.
Not like Juan. There's a couple things, right? Sometimes you hit the character first time, you're like, that's amazing. Other times it's like 7 months just to get a good looking character. But for that, you got to remember design. You've got tech artists. You've got you know, me, because I'm always blocking everything. You've got character artists, and sometimes character artists, it'll be they're busy and they got to pass it off to someone else. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you pray that you can get one from start to finish. That's your goal in life, you know, not to have to pass things off. But there's a good, I would say, I would say at the beginning, there's a good 6 to 7 people coming up with ideas on the character, and then it starts. And then what you do is you're like, hey, here's everything. Here's a hit list of what everybody wants, and then you go off and you just kind of let the concept artists do their thing.
Gotcha.
Let them go. That's the biggest thing. Is like, don't nitpick them. Let them be creative. And to be honest, things that you thought and needed, they'll sometimes bring in like, hey, what if we did this instead? And you're like, oh man, I never thought of that. Right. And then it's a back and forth. And then we all do sign-offs. We'll have a meeting where Juan's in there, Christian's in there. Every discipline is in there, and everybody has to sign off. Once everybody gets to sign off, you let Juan and Christian do their thing, and you try not to like micromanage them, because they'll even be like, you can have amazing concept, but it doesn't mean concepts. A 2D concept is a straight 1-for-1. It doesn't go over to 3D 1-for-1. So there's a lot of things where we have Alice, but Christian was like coming back. He's like, hey man, we can't do these straps because of the way she bends, or so can we turn these to buckles? Or there are certain things that like that don't transfer to 3D, and you just trust them, and that's what I love about working with these guys, because we've done it for so long. It's like, you know, Christian or Juan be like, hey man, I want to do this. I'm like, yeah, I don't care, just go.
now,
just do it.
I'm going to ask a slightly spicy question, and I think that this is something that is a question that's in the back of everybody's minds. Okay, because here we are, we're in a somewhat different gaming environment than most of you guys are familiar with, and that you have spent time in prior to this.
Yep.
And this is an interesting thing to me, because, you know, I mean, I can't imagine doing a stream like this, for example, for Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I just can't imagine, you know, a bunch of artists from Call of Duty or Halo or something getting together and doing the like how the sausage is made sort of stream, right? Now, this is an interesting thing to me, because I also am familiar to a certain extent with some of those teams and how large some of them are. Okay, so when it comes to you guys putting some of this together, is it a multifunctional switch hitting sort of thing where you guys are building something that's a massive project of passion, and you're doing more than you would do were you in, you know, a different larger team in, you know, sort of a more traditional company? Or is it a question of being a little bit more nimble and agile in terms of what you build, and having fewer people sort of in the approval process, therefore it can be more efficient.
Right.
Am I completely wrong about all of this?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think a lot of us came from these giant projects. I mean, all of us have worked in like the Call of Duty thing. I was on Assassin's Creed where we had 1,500 people on that game. It's one of those refreshing things where like we can start small, we can start building the vision together in a team that can talk to each other. When you have 30 people on a team early on, it is something you don't get in games anymore unless you're starting with an indie studio. But we're actually trying to do this with a AAA quality type game out there too, which is really, really refreshing, because I mean, I think a lot of us, you feel like a cog in the wheel when you're working on those big titles. Here it is discussions. Like I think what Juan and Christian and Mansfield alluded to earlier, is just that we can have these discussions every day. They're fluid discussions between all the disciplines. We're able to riff off each other. Yes, eventually we will have to build outsourcing teams that can basically take our blockouts and finish these for us when we want to do like, hundreds of characters and things like that. But at least for right now, super, super, super refreshing. Gala's created such a great environment for this game that we are able to, I don't know, I just think like everyone's so passionate right now. This is a passion project for us. A lot of us work together. We're just, it just feels so unique to actually be back in the space again, that we can actually collaborate together, design the narrative, the characters, the world, the story. Everything has been so fluid and so, I don't know, it just feels like new. It feels like we jumped back, 15 years into game development when like we all started in the early 2000s. We're all old. That it just feels like old school development. And I think that is so cool to get that passion back. I think that's really been a motivational factor for all of us.
I absolutely love that. And this is a question that I have. And in fact, I'm going to send this video to a potential partner that we're talking about working with here. That specifically, it's a design university. Okay, we are in the process now of setting up a bunch of different initiatives with universities around the world, really, starting with the United States. And you guys do the type of job that when you're a student, you look at this and go, holy shit, I want to do that. That's the coolest thing ever. So do you have any advice for a young artist who is interested in doing what you guys do? Any skills that they should pick up? Any types of software that they should learn? And what's the best way to break into the industry?
Pretty loaded question.
There's a lot of ways.
And again, if I'm asking the wrong question,
these are great questions. We can answer. Yeah,
I actually like answering these kind of questions because people have asked us before. Christian, do you want to go? And then
yeah, sure. I mean, I think everybody's experience is unique. I know some people that struggled for years to break into the industry, and then I happen to be one of those individuals that I graduated on a Thursday and I had my first job on a Monday. So it depends. Juan went to a really nice school and got a master's. I went to a reasonable school and got a bachelor's. Roger went to a community college and got an associate's, and we all ended up at the same place. So I don't believe that there is a unique path that is better than others. Definitely what I would say is any and all skill sets that are necessary for this job are trainable and are doable and can be found on YouTube. From there on out, it's just the amount of time and energy that you dedicate to it. And I think that's what makes the difference, right? And making that choice of, well, do I go and do I play these games and do I have fun, or do I try and do something with my art to help progress me in this ultimate goal of mine? Right. And it's a balancing act because you don't want to do one more than the other. Right. You have to work, but at the same time, you got to play hard. Like you can't just do one or the other. It leads to burnout, which is a very common term for us. But the whole point is to maintain that freshness and maintain that excitement. And we do that through playing the games that we used to play when we were kids, or playing some of the newer games and seeing what other people are doing. So that's also part of it. But it's finding that balancing act. I think that's one of the most difficult things to do at the very beginning. Then later on, when it becomes second nature and it becomes easier to do, then all of a sudden you can go back and you don't have to put so much head into it. It's almost just automatic for you, right? But But I think at the very beginning, it's that that's what sets you apart. And oftentimes we can tell, like right off the bat, the second that we meet to somebody and we talk to them and they tell us about who they are, we can make a 5-minute judgment call and be like, yeah, this person's definitely they know where they're going. They have a path. They're going to make it.
I was going to say, Christian, and Juan, maybe you can talk about specific tools, but there's so much free online, like you talked about. There's YouTube videos for a lot of things, but if you want to get into AAA game development, download Unreal. If you're a level designer, you can use the tools in there and build games for free right now. There's tutorials for everything online. My 11-year-old is building levels. I just did a school project to get him to like a fine arts program because all he needed was 2 days and tutorials to learn that tool. But I mean, maybe you guys could talk more specifically about some of the tools you use that are free, right now as well too, that they could download and look at.
Yeah, you can get like Blender for sure, and then it's free for you guys. SketchUp, there is a bunch of other softwares. To me, the main thing is to train your eye. If your eye is trained to visualize things and kind of like your imagination to reality, that's the main thing. Because before you make a cake, you gotta have you gotta know how to build it from beginning to start. So make sure you practice your drawing. Make sure you research about color theory. Make sure you analyze each element, how it plays with each other, stuff like that. So
yeah, to this day, I still take classes that are on pure fundamentals alone, because everybody has the same technology at their fingertips. So we're all starting from the same common technological base. But the thing that's going to help you set aside, at the very least for an artist, is going to be, like Juan mentioned, your artistic eye. And that's something that comes years and years after. I believe oftentimes whenever you start a job, they're okay with you being at a certain level, but they want you to be at the top tier just to get into the base level. And that means that you have to dedicate a lot more time and energy than you would to most other careers. But I think that's part of what makes it so sweet in the end.
Jumping on that, Christian, and then kind of last thing is just because I have a tendency I actually look at a lot of portfolios, quite a few of them, right? And you said, you want top tier talent. What I've seen, a lot of the portfolios coming in is a lot of people don't know what they want to do in the industry. So what they are is they're a jack of all trades, but master of none, which means they're like, I like to do a little bit of modeling. I like to do a little bit of character animation. I like to do, listen, your job is to get your foot in the door, find out what you really like, and go all in on that. There's that, because you can do smaller companies and you can do everything. That's great. When you start going into AAA and we need kind of a little bit more focused on certain things. So if you love modeling, man, model, if you love hard surface modeling, be an awesome hard surface model. Organic, be the best at that, instead of a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you are. And it's like, well, I like characters, but I like this. It's like, man, just that's great. Once you get in, you can help out with other people. Mm-hmm. But it's your job to be like, I'm going to hire you for a specific job.
I'm going to model the shit out of trees, and I'm going to make the best trees ever.
But you know what? To be honest, we're always looking for speed tree people. That's not a bad thing. Trees, dude, I will take rocks and trees. I'll take a rocket tree modeler all day long. So,
or you might model weapons really well, and eventually, we have a need for props or buildings, and they're hard surface pipeline stuff too. So I think that's the thing, like you were talking about Mansfield, is that you can switch along the way. Like but put your foot in the door, pick a path, go that way. Just know that it's a fluid industry. Like we wear multiple hats.
Nice.
So there's definitely places to change along the way. So don't feel like it'll be stuck forever. But if you do pick that way and focus on it, that's probably the easiest way to get in the door, is to be really a master of something when you get into the industry as much as you can.
Yep.
So we have a question from NFT Chuck here, and I think that we'll probably close with this because we're coming up on the hour here. But what is everyone's favorite creature or character in Last Expedition?
Let's see. Character. Man, character is gonna be Seb. I love Seb. I think he's awesome. Seb is easily that. The creature, you've got to go with the Ravager. He's just a pain. When you hear him, you freak out.
Dude,
you play Jason,
that sound is crazy. Like it you just feel it inside, and it is.
And you don't see him for a minute.
Always die.
sometimes you see him, you don't, you just know he's near, and that where you're like everybody stops and looks around. So that's got to be mine.
I really enjoy Jasper, and the reason why is because he's a tank kind of guy, and I've seen the concepts coming down the pipeline for him, and I'm excited for it because this guy is just jacked all the way up. And
Jasper's favorite music, I don't know if you guys know this yet, but Jasper's favorite music is Sabaton. Just saying.
Is that what it is?
It is, for sure.
Nice.
Almost guaranteed.
So I think out of all of the gear coming down, I think that's the one that excites me more. As far as creatures, I'm going to go and be extremely biased. Say the porcupine, even though you'll never see it, even though it's far off. Right?
You put a lot of love into that one.
I did put a lot of love into it. And then later on, we figured out like, oh, yeah, it's all the way back here. So, that's the life of an artist. It's like we do it for our own, and then, maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't.
I love the porcupine because it's such a devilishly difficult thing to kill, especially since, when you're shooting with a gun, right? Your shots are linear. You have bullet drop, but it's basically, you can always see the thing that you're shooting at. But with the porcupine, it's got the plunging fire where it arcs up over things. Makes it super, super difficult. Massive pain in the ass. Well done.
Yeah, I bet if you guys in the future we put some of the animations that Dan Rule has set up for him, you guys will amaze. I don't know if you can see him really clear in the game since you can really see the creature, but yeah, it is something amazing what he has done with the deformation of the character. And then for me is Alice. Oh my gosh, she's like a part of me.
That's true.
I worked in that character for so long, and that she was the ground base for all the characters. So we built all the materials around her, all the customization around her. Everything that we're doing is around Alice. So she's kind of like the base for everything we have done with characters.
I'm going Levi. I did not plan this with you all. Levi's got a hoverboard, guys. Also, the one thing you're going to see, you will not see this in the summer build that's coming out, but at the end of the year, that's Jasper and Levi are the ones that we're still finishing right now to take to their final iteration. You're going to see some awesome British punk rock to him, too. His hair is going to be awesome. There's some cool supply prizes coming with him, too. But again, hoverboard. I can get across the map and back. I can take the core with me, drop it off, then come back and, distract people. Throw some bait balls out there and distract, creatures onto enemies and stuff. And then I'd say the enemy burrower. That is my favorite right now, just the gameplay. You will get to play that in the summer build. Basically, the burrowers right now, they just wander around and they will go underground. You'll see them tunneling towards you. You may have 4 or 5 of them attacking you. They'll pop up from the ground and attack you. It's just one of those really cool things that once you predict and you can see where they're going, it's fun to take out a horde of them, but they can also surprise you, ambush you, and knock you out really, really fast.
I love it, guys. Well, I think that's everybody, right?
Yep.
I'll throw mine in.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Alice fan. I always like playing Alice. She's just a total badass. The way that you guys modeled her is just absolutely incredible. And you showed in your slide deck, you showed sort of the reference art with the poster with all of the different pieces that were referenced. I would love to get a large printout of that, or a large file I can get printed, because I've got a hallway that's got cool Gala crap hanging in it.
Nice.
And so I would love to get that in there. And the community at some point in time would love to see some of these things as NFTs, which would just be for artistic collection purposes, no utility, no anything like that, other than this is a super cool thing. I think that with your guys' permission, obviously, Christian hates that idea. He's like, that's it, guys, I'm out.
He's out.
I'm out. Nobody will have these. I think with the rest of the team's permission and all of that, that would be a thing that people would really, really like, I think. Just from a coolness perspective. But I just want to thank you guys very much for taking the time to come here today and to chat with all of us in the Gala Games Blue Realm community. Your guys' art is outstanding, and your commitment to it is something that I think is inspiring to everybody. So thank you guys very much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, take care. Thank you for having us.
Good opportunity.
Thank
We'll
you, guys.
see you guys all on the flip side. I'll be in Discord for a few minutes here, and we'll go from there, guys. Peace out.
Later.
All right.
See ya.